All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome aboard to the Morning Note. My name is Carlos Garcia, founder and CEO of Gar Capital. It is Valentine's Day on a Wednesday, February 14th, 2024. Glad to be with y'all. Let's go ahead and get started on our day. Dow futures are up 105 points. The Nasdaq's up 101 points. We also have the S&P up 0.45%, and the Russell at this moment is up 1.20%. If you saw regarding yesterday, that move that we had post CPI, we had a pretty severe pullback. I can't say it wasn't anything, but we didn't really break anything. So really just want to emphasize that point. I put a couple of notes on the market blog I want to read with you guys. And here it is. So I wrote this at 3:10 p.m. yesterday. Remember the last Fed meeting, Powell was speaking. That was FOMC on Jan 31 to Feb 1. Jan 31 was the actual speech and the report of no hike or no cut. This was bought up literally the next day, pull back again and continue higher. And I wanted to emphasize this point, guys. Shorting in a bull market isn't easy. Remember, you're fighting the trend. Remember that. Very, very, very tough. But, and I also wrote here, we would love to fire away a short position here with options, but we are beholden to overnight news and moves. The dollar and treasury yields are near resistance. Futures, we have control at least. Options, we may have to wait a day. Think of today as major earnings and it missed. Tomorrow, we pick up the pieces. A couple of other things I wrote, market thoughts. Looking around the market, I mean, we are down, but we haven't broken anything substantial. Both S&P and NASDAQ are above their 20-day moving average. We did have that RSI divergence that we posted the night before. But again, it was beholden to CPI. And it's all about, finding the excuse, the most expected pullback in recent memory. And we got one. Was it enough to do anything? I mean, that really depends. It seems that it's being bought up now, really on no news, other than the fact that it's a relief bounce. So what is the expectation here moving forward with S&P? Let's go back to that day. Here is the day ahead of the FOMC. And you could see here, this is the 31st. We were at 49.35, got to the lows of 48.65, about 80 points or so, 70 points on the S&P. And then the day after, we retraced the whole move, 49.58. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, oh, that's when you got to buy. What happened the next day? Slammed and then bounced. And then you just been kind of hovering higher. So if we expand this chart, you could see, really, has anything broken? Not even the 20. We bounced off the 20-day moving average. We're still stuck in this beautiful upward channel, sure, but nothing to be really concerned about, at least for now. If we bring up RTY, Russell's down. It was down yesterday big. And what did it do? It retraced back to the previous point of resistance, like a magnet, above the 20 again. Remember, we were up at 2050, got slammed. Guess where we're going to go again? Now, eventually, we don't know exactly when. So that's going to have to be a futures question, not an options one, because we can just be chopped. So it's not as simple as, oh, yeah, the CPI, it was hot. We're screwed. We're just going to tank. It doesn't work like that, guys. I mean, right now, you are in a bull market, whether you like it or not, and it's going to be very difficult to short it. Now, there is some great rewards if you can time it correctly. Absolutely. But pretty difficult to send out as signals when it comes to shorting in the bear market because things can flip rather quickly. So we also had BITO, Bitcoin. We filled those March 15 calls for the 25 strike. We're 50 cents away from the money. So we're looking great. Our target is 25.48 on BITO. We're about $1 away from our target. That's where we'll probably take profit. If you held Mara runners, which are expiring today, they're at 29 now. This is why you hold. We knew where Bitcoin was going. And again, this is with CPI being hot and the dollar going up, the VIX going up, and doesn't matter. The Bitcoin halving is coming. Again, less supply. Now everyone likes Bitcoin. How fun. The idea is to time it. And so far, we have. So 56,510 is the next target on Bitcoin. Keep that in mind. That's your 23.6 Fibonacci level. If you flip it, then it's really the 78.6. So really up to you how you see it. All right, let's answer some questions this morning. Bitcoin, just answer it. Yep. We already tagged 48K and we broke out to new highs, recent highs anyways. I think crypto market cap is back above $1 trillion. Really, you just have to keep an eye at 48,563. And you can see how we wicked that 38.2 fib and bounced rather perfectly. And we had an excuse to keep going. We had a little small gap at 47,896. The next target, again, for Bitcoin futures, mind you, is 56,510. So keep that in mind. Good morning, Zoom Balloon. Good morning, Ryan. Thoughts on EURCHF? Wow, it's been a while. Let's take a look at some Forex. Excuse me. Again, if anyone is interested on what we're having pre-market, it's scrolling at the bottom. That's what's the market mover. So here we go. Euro, Swiss franc on the daily below the 200-day. If anything, you're probably looking to continue to short this. If anything, is there anything really spicy about it, or really what to trade on it? Well, in the hourly, we do need to break down below 94.71, and if you're looking to go long on it, Euro Swiss franc, you got to get above 95.18. See this level here of support that broke and kind of held, and then it retested again. We need to get it back above there before you do anything long or short. It just depends on your perspective. You can sell the rip or you can buy the dip. Google, still 151 call price. I have not filled Alphabet yet. We got to 150 and then we pulled back. So I'm glad we're waiting on it. Let's see if we can get back above 150. Well, actually, you can get above 147.81. That's your 20. But again, we need that to settle. You have a gap to fill at 148.44. If we can get it back above 150, then we can do the 150. Which one of these? The 152 calls, 153 calls, which is that gap fill. But we need to get back above 150. We were there and we were just kind of hovering, and I was being conservative and I did not send that. I was just like, let's just wait. Let's see what happens. And good thing we did. So we'll see if we get a crack at 152. We'll buy some time. Is it a good time to get into Apple? If you're talking about Apple in general, the stock, it is holding the 200-day, and that seems to be that support that we've had really since last October. So again, that would probably be your target price for a buy the dip scenario. Nothing against Apple. I think the Vision Pro is really great. I'm curious on when the second one's coming out. The second iteration of their new products tend to be better. The first iPad wasn't that great. The first iPhone wasn't that great. The first watch wasn't that great. The first Vision Pro, nice, but we'll see how the next one goes. But that's probably going to be the driver for Apple moving forward until they make the car. So again, I do believe in Apple. I think Apple's rather expensive in terms of earnings, but they'd had better than expected earnings as well. In order to really get a breakout and where we want to go, we got to get above 192 again. And then we'll back to the 195s, right? But for now, that red line right here, that's your 200-day, 183.27. That's going to be your support for the time being. And it's up slightly. It's not soaring or anything. Robinhood up this morning at 13.49. I have an alert at 15.26 for a break. If that does break, then we got an opportunity to go long to 17. It's nice that we got that move pre-market. Let's see if we can get above 15.26 a couple of days later, because 13.44 or 13.52, what they're doing now, if this continues, technically is the first breakout heading up to the next one, which is at 15.26. I had to zoom out here because this used to be, well, let's call it a $59 stock. It's now at $13. So we'll see if Robinhood continues. That's what we want. Continuation. Let's see. Do you think MetaQuest is better than Apple Vision Pro or be more profitable and successful? I think Apple Vision Pro would be better. I think there is more of an ecosystem that has people with money versus Metaverse or Facebook members who probably don't need to spend anything on WhatsApp, Facebook, don't do verified or anything like that. The people who have Apple products tend to be, higher median income, higher earners. They're going to be able to pay for the services, the arcade, the Apple TV, iCloud, all that jazz. Metaverse is all about, again, you're the product when it comes to Metaverse and Facebook. All the details that you're giving, you are the product. If the product is free, you are the product. Apple's different. Apple does a little more privacy with their data, technically speaking. Metaverse, I mean, you're in. That's just what it is. So I do think that Apple Vision Pro will be more profitable than the MetaQuest. The only thing that would change with the MetaQuest, where I'd be like a little bit concerned in terms of like an Apple user that's kind of using the the comparison is if the metaverse itself, like the metaverse itself, got really took off, but it didn't. So that kind of hurt Meta with that. But they pivoted very well and they focused on what they did well, which is their social media, their WhatsApp, and their other entities. But the metaverse, at least for now, they might just be a little early for a mass adoption. They're just not there yet. DAL, we do have that open. It is up this morning. You just got to get above 40.94. If we retrace this full move on the S&P, which remember, that was the last time we had that. We had a full retrace. I say DAL hits if we get above 50.20 to 50.40. Again, that's just going to be dependent on the volume. So if DAL or we get some kind of pop here, then we should be able to catch that. You can see that DAL is holding the 50-day moving average. Again, all we want to do is get back to this gap of 41.46 and explode higher to 42.71. We should be rather close. As long as we hold the 20-day, you can see we do have a golden cross. We do have the 50-day moving average above the 200-day. We should be able to get momentum. This is the same setup that Bitcoin had, a golden cross that we said months ago, and it's been on fire. So we just wait. I actually bought the Quest 3 person. I don't think for the price, Apple's worth it. Very limited amount. Right. Very limited amount of people can afford that price for Apple. And that's my point. The people that can afford those Apple products, they're going to spend on apps. They're going to spend on peripherals. Metaverse, I mean, you have kind of a price ceiling on what people want to pay. Apple, you have tons of fanboys. You have tons of people that are just huge Apple heads, and they'll pay any price for the maxed out MacBook, the maxed out Vision Pro. So you're probably getting more profit per customer as an Apple shareholder than you are with Meta, is my point. The strike we're holding for Dow, that was the signal that we sent. My apologies. I think I hit mute on the mic. 41 and a half. 41 and a half, really just targeting this gap fill at 41 and a half. And I believe we'll get there this week with this pop. For your long-term portfolio, did you consider ASML? No. When it comes to semiconductors, I like Pepsi and Coke, meaning NVIDIA and AMD. I think you stick with those two. If you want to buy more semiconductors, be my guest. I just don't want it to turn into the .com bubble where you're buying every single .com name, pets.com, library.com, stuff.com, or whatever. I think you stick with AMD and NVIDIA long-term, kind of like the cloud. I got two, Amazon and Microsoft. I'll stick with those two. I don't want to be over diversified either. Yes, I'll be happy if ASML goes up because that helps NVIDIA and that helps AMD. But I've been that way for years. And I know there's tons of other ones. I know there's Super Microcomputer and so many other ones. I'm just going to stick to the two that work for me. It's just easier. Or you can buy the semiconductor ETF, which is SMH. So you'll have definitely tons of options. Nothing against ASML at all. I just don't want so many names from one sector. I'm beholden to that one sector. Heaven forbid something happens with semiconductors where there's some kind of import or export ban to another country or from another country. Obviously that's something that could happen, but I'm not saying it's gonna happen. Again, it's a lot of risk there if you're just piling into semiconductors and every single semiconductor out there. You're setting yourself up for a really nasty pain if semiconductors, for some reason, tend to pull back. And you can get rotation. It's normal. Headlines happen. We will see. Yes, it is easier to invest in chip companies when the government is subsidizing them with the CHIPS Act. Yeah, it's kind of like, arms industry. Yeah, the arms industry will always have a customer, the U.S. government, the number one purchaser and maker of weapons. Yeah, duh. The government is the last client, the client of last resort, or the client of first resort, and they're always going to buy from you. Yeah, your stock's going to do well. That's kind of how it works. Some kind of capitalist socialism hybrid sometimes. If you guys have heard of the military-industrial complex, kind of like that, kind of. We don't really have a full capitalistic system. We kind of have some kind of a hybrid. We like our government handouts, but not too many government handouts. We like capitalism, but not too much capitalism. It's like the porridge, too hot, too cold, just right. You're welcome, Zoom Balloon. And PT says, thank you, sir, for your daily morning note. You're very welcome. And we're going to end this here with one more question here on Upstart. Pulled back. If you guys saw the Lyft earnings too, they pulled back, but they were soaring. Anything to do here with Upstart 2762? You're now below the 100-day, so you got a gap to fill here at 2188. Upstart may have a little more downside for now, but again, anything can change. I wouldn't touch it. Give it 3-day rule. Same thing. If you're an Upstart shareholder or you're an Upstart trader, give it a day, see how it goes. And remember, one day does not a market make. Yesterday the market fell. We're still in a bull market. Nothing really has changed other than the worst day since last March. And that's all. And remember, guys, seasonality. We said this. The last 2 weeks of this February tend to be weaker. Pick your excuse. CPI, retail sales, PPI. Biden said something. Trump said something. China said something. Putin said something. Just spin the wheel. It's always the same. Pick your excuse, and then we'll find a headline that'll fit that narrative. It just works that way. Sometimes stocks go down. It just happens. Yesterday, which is a little more volatile, but needed, very much needed. It can't be just going up to the sky forever. Sometimes you get these pullbacks. It just happens. All right, guys, have a great rest of your morning, and we will see you guys tomorrow for the next morning note. Cheers all.